Hello and welcome back to the Will I Viking podcast. Today I'm with David Watson from Moorforge Viking Settlement in Gilcrease.
Yes.
I think I said that right.
You think you did, I was near enough.
We're currently sat in Dereham Church because it's a bit windy. And we've come somewhere a bit quieter than Moorforge where my daughter's currently playing harmonica.
Yeah. We've no comment.
So we thought we'd come and talk a little bit about what David does.
Yeah.
And a little bit about local history, the Vikings in Cumbria, and see where we go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what is it you do at Moorforge?
I am the village, for Gilcrease village, I'm the general blacksmith, and I'm the owner of Moorforge, and we're just developing a little living history site there based on the Viking period, picking up on the local Viking history. So to that end, we've got ourselves a forge and a longhouse and a workshop, another longhouse under construction. And then at a later date, once this one's done, we'll be adding a little church, an early Christian Viking church, and an animal barn. And this kind of links us in as to why we sat here in Dereham Church.
Yeah.
Because the Vikings coming into the West Cumbrian area sailed up the Solway from the Isle of Man after they were chased out of Ireland. And so on the whole, they were already converted to Christians. So there were early Christians that came here, and they came as farmers and settlers. So unlike the East Coast, we didn't get the raiding that the Danish Vikings did. We had the Norse Vikings who came out through Ireland. And as I say, they settled, farmed, mixed in with the local community, married the locals, and within a couple of generations had blended into the background, which is quite interesting because people will say, well, what do we know about the Vikings now? What happened to the Vikings? The Vikings are still here. The Viking blood is in the local blood. It's in the place names. You can find the artifacts in the churches.
Like the sort of local dialect and stuff is sort
very
of
much
based around
the Cumbrian dialect.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of the Norse language in it. It's very strong accent. I've got my Sunday voice on here, otherwise people in general can't hardly understand me. Because it is a really strong accent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, So we're in a good place here. I mean, this church, there's parts of it, the tower is Norman. There's a lot of artifacts in here. There's quite an interesting wheel cross as you come in with a heavy shaft on it. Early Christian, but it has the pagan image of Yggdrasil up the front of the shaft. And then the font, when there's dragons carved into the font, and it's pagan iconography on early Christian religious artifacts. So it's that crossover period, the early Christian period, and it would almost suggest that the Norse settlers who came into Cumbria, they were Christian, they had to be in order to trade, to mix, to live here, they had to become Christian. But they were kind of edging the bets. There's always this little bit of pagan iconography going on that we see in the early Christian settlers.
Yeah. So
which explains why we sat in a church discussing this, as well as the fact it's not very nice outside.
Yeah. But it's that side of things as well, isn't it? Everyone wants to be a Viking, and it's all about Thor and Odin and that side of things. And a lot of people seem to want to distance themselves from the Christian side, but it's not something the Vikings did.
It's part and parcel, if we're being honest about it. They were just another people. You know, there weren't these big blonde giants running around waving axes and killing everybody and shouting for Odin. And they were farmers. They were traders. Trading was the big part. And they were supreme traders, but that was based on the development of the Viking longship. It's how they came to be here. It's how they came to trade over most of Europe and down into the Middle East. The far-reaching trade routes that they had, they were supreme traders. But in order to trade, they had to become Christian because the Christian world wouldn't trade with pagans. So they're quite happily there. You know, they weren't bothered. Trading's more important than religion.
It's another one to add to your pantheon. Yeah.
You know? And it's just, they're very practical people.
Yeah.
It's the practicality of it. You can't not make a living, so you do what you have to do. So, yeah, and when we've based Moorforge on that early settler period, from when the Norse Vikings came here and settled, and as I say, they came as farmers, and they were very good at it. Yeah, and there's not a big difference between the Vikings and the Saxons who were here before them. You know, it's very similar. You still got that early Christians. They're both early Christians. Both believed in similar things. Even the languages were reasonably similar. There are all these Germanic languages. They could get by. They're quite happily integrated and married amongst themselves. And as I said, Vikings became Cumbrians and Cumbrians became Vikings, and so we have really strong links. And people don't realise it. Other than the stone artefacts that were left in that short period when they first came, there's very little trace. An early medieval Englishman's house was pretty much like a Viking settler's house. I mean, you can't. It's really difficult to date. We have, up in the Lake District, there's plenty of sites with Viking-esque buildings. We find the remains and stone footings of buildings. But you can't really date it and say, well, that's Viking. Because they were all farmers. So they all had same art. You found spindle whorls in every house. Didn't matter where you come from. You had spindle whorls. You had farming equipment, you had farming tools, and you're using the same things. So if you're digging up a genetic building of the time, all the artifacts are similar. It doesn't matter who was living in the house, they all had similar stuff. So, and people forget this, and they think, oh, well, Vikings are long gone. But they're not, they're still here.
I've even read that the way the farms are laid out all over Cumbria and the dry stone wall in itself, that's all I think Western Norwegian technique.
Yeah.
That goes back to the Vikings again.
Which is exactly where these guys came from.
So the evidence is right there, you know, you're driving down the road, you see it.
You can follow it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting, and when you're talking about dialect, the Norwegian Vikings, some came round into Ireland and then came here, and some swept up into Iceland and settled Iceland. Now, Icelandic, it's a very pure race. It's only in recent times that other people have gone there. The Icelanders were very true to the roots, and the language never changed. A modern Icelander can pretty much read the old sagas that were written 1,000 years ago. The language hasn't changed. And as a consequence, I've spoken to Icelanders, and if I use really broad Cumbrian words, really heavy dialect words, Icelanders understand it. It's the same words.
Yeah.
And an example would be in Espatria, there's a road in Espatria, Outgang Road. Well, Outgang, it's the way out. It literally means the way out.
It sounds a bit like outgoing.
Yeah, Outgang, road out. Yeah. It's road out. And Icelanders for home, they would say hem. Well, if you're in Cumbria, it's yem, in the Cumbrian dialect. And they use the same with children playing. An old Cumbrian word for children playing is, kids laking. That's what Icelanders say, laking, children's lake, the play. And so it goes on, and it's right through, you know. And then there's the generic words, gill, fell, any place name ending in by, all these kind of things. It all comes from the Norse. Yeah, so really strong influence.
Yeah. So what is it that gets you to go from being a blacksmith to building a Viking settlement in your backyard? That was a bit American of me there, wasn't it? Yard.
Yeah,
garden.
The yard. Out the yard.
I don't know why I said yard.
Get a grip. Although the Vikings did get to America, we are led to believe. Anyhow, no, circumstances, it's pure happen chance. I mean, I was aware that Vikings were in the area, and I've sort of always had an interest in a bit of local history, as it were. And I went self-employed nearly 20 years ago now. I was down at Sellafield working with contractors down there. And then I finished there and I set up, I thought, well, I'll do my own thing. And I set up the blacksmith shop where I am now at Moorforge. And at the time I was looking for any sort of help I could get, really. And there was a guy I knew who, and I thought, well, he's dealing with, having a very sketchy idea of what he's done. I thought, well, he's dealing with grants and so on. And this was Martin Clark of Grandpa's Training and Heritage. And I went along to see him. His offices were just down the road from where I lived. So I went to see him and he says, no, we don't do those sort of grants. And he explained that what he does is youth exchange work throughout Europe. And he was doing student exchanges based on traditional crafts. And the idea was he was finding modern uses for traditional skills. If you've got a use for it, it doesn't die out. No, so it was to sustain these traditional skills. And a lot of the East European youngsters had this skill set still, but they were desperate to go from a rural lifestyle to a town lifestyle. This, you know, it's natural people want to improve their lives. But they still had this skill set. It was there in the families and so on. So it was fine. So he was sending students out there to learn skills, and they were coming over here on exchanges. And I got involved in that as one of his trainers, and when he had groups over, I was doing little bits of blacksmithing with them. And this continued for quite a while. So this was, as I say, it was Martin Clark of Grandpa's Training and Heritage, and I would highly recommend anybody looking to do something hands-on, travel, see a bit of Europe, see what Grandpa's have to offer. You won't regret it. Do some fantastic training weeks for students. It's some of them do like 5-6 week blocks in various places. Like, and you get all over Europe. You know, I've been all over with them. Fascinating stuff. Learn a lot of things, and you live with the locals, work with the locals, and it's fully funded. Brilliant opportunity for young people. Anyhow, back on track. So I done that, but while I was working with him, I met a woman called Margaret Hallman's daughter, and she was over with a group of students from Iceland. And I had a chat with her, and I thought nothing more of it. And then it was about a couple of weeks later, she emailed me and said, oh, we're over in Iceland, we're recreating a Viking period iron smelt. Would you be interested in being involved, being the blacksmith on the smelt? Oh, damn right I would. So I went out for a long weekend in Iceland, and we ran this smelt in a turf furnace, and it turns out it was the first time anybody had done a smelt in a turf furnace since the Viking area. Wow. So we got the dibs in on that one. And that was just purely by chance, because I'd never done an iron smelt before. Margaret hadn't done one, and it was just what she'd read in books, and she'd read up on these Viking furnaces and said, oh, we'll give this a go. So, you know, more power to her. So while I was there, she said, oh, I'm busy writing a project. Would you like to be a partner in the project? Again, yes, of course. So as part of that, we had a group of Icelanders and various other people came over, and we built the little turf roof forge at Moorforge. That was part of the project. We'd done one similar in Iceland. We worked on a Saxon long haul in Germany. We built a fisherman's hut in Denmark, and we moved a village log cabin in the mountains of Romania. And it shared traditional skills in construction, and there's a lot of crossovers in the building methods and so on. So it was quite interesting to do these exchanges, and it was stretched over a 2-year period. So at the end of this project, I'm sat with an interest in the Viking period and a Viking forge in the field behind my house. I'm thinking, what am I going to do with this? So I thought, oh, I could do with a longhouse to go with it, and it just sort of snowballed. I got a little bit of funding money together.
Yeah.
And it went from there to buy the materials, and over the next couple of summers, I built our first longhouse, and it's gone from there. So now we're doing school days, we do various events, sites for private hire if you want, you know. So there's anything at all really, but it's all about ultimately. I'm wanting to get back to the traditional skills, educate on local history, and promote traditional crafts. That's what I'm wanting.
Which
is
what you're doing with the new build, isn't it? So
and
you've got your new longhouse, and you've been running that as courses.
And we've run it as courses, over last summer. It was run. The build was run as a series of round timber framing courses. So now the frame's complete. So over this summer, I'm hoping to get it not complete, but at least a roof on and weather tight. And then after that, there's loads of work, especially on the inside, because we have all the detail work and wood carving and finishing and metal work.
A lot of work ahead.
A lot of work to kit it out. Yeah, it's a big old longhouse. So.
But it kind of comes to that point then is, so how do you fund a project like Moorforge? Because we should probably... people do ask, don't they? And they, well...
Yeah, where's the money? Well, mostly it's been out of my own pocket. I mean, I did get... The first build was done through the Grampus project, because it was a partner project, so I got funded for the little forge through that. The materials for the longhouse build were funded by the local wind farm company. They were just setting up at the time, and I got a sum of money off them for materials for that. I've tried for funding since. Things have really tightened up with funding, and I don't like, apart from the fact I don't like doing all the paperwork and forms for them because it's just a nightmare. But also, I feel in these days when if hospitals are struggling for funding, I feel that I'm a bit of a cheek wanting funding to build a longhouse. So I've kind of, I don't know, and it's kind of...
it comes from a different source.
I know, but it's sort of a personal view on it and thinking, well... So I'm kind of funding it myself. The frame was funded through the round timber framing courses last year. We also built a small workshop outside, which is complete. Now, part of the longhouse frame and the workshop are clad with planks. Now, that was paid for through GoFundMe. All donations gratefully received, obviously. Yeah,
so what we'll do afterwards is we'll pop a link down in the description.
Yeah.
And if you want to help fund the project, I mean, when we go back...
It'd be much appreciated because, you know, it's sort of, we're looking at £10 a plank. So...
And how many do you need?
Oh, quite a few. It's an 18-metre longhouse.
Yeah.
And so far we've clad about 3 metres of it, so there's plenty of planking to go, So
if you can afford to chip in a little bit of money on the GoFundMe page,
I can guarantee all the GoFundMe money is for buying planks. I'll put in some of my own money as the summer goes on. Like I say, I want a functioning building by winter, so whatever. But I can 100% guarantee any money on a GoFundMe to Moorforge will be spent on materials. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, when we're done here, we'll pop back to Moorforge and make some food and stuff.
Yeah.
And if it's not too windy, we'll try and do a quick tour of the buildings so you can see what's there if you haven't seen it before.
Give you an idea exactly what we do.
I mean, you're open some various dates throughout the year anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, if you watch the Moorforge page, there's any events coming up will be advertised on there. If you just want to pop in at some point, just drop us a line. It'll either be a yes or a no. If I'm about, I'm quite happy to give you the quick guided tour. Like I say, it's for hire. Campers are welcome if you're looking for somewhere to pitch camp. If you're in the area, you can certainly come and do that. Might be a good opportunity. You can go walking and visit Moorforge all in one if you're up for the weekend or something like that, you know. So yeah,
the folk festival coming
up. The folk festival coming up. I've a lot on personally this year, and I'm doing a lot of work on site as well this year. So we're not doing the big Viking event this year like we did last. We're postponing that.
That's the Starada Herd, Polish group.
Herd, yeah.
It's Eastern.
Yeah, they're the Eastern style Polish guys.
Yeah,
they're good. They're good.
Yeah, so they're going to do that next summer. That'll be.
Yeah. So that'll be on next summer. So watch for that. That'll be an excellent event, and it should be quite a big one as well. I mean, it's one of the reasons they've skipped this year is so that we can guarantee the numbers for who's doing what next year.
Yeah.
Gives us more time to organise, get people pulled in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Moorforge is sort of partly responsible for what I do as well with my courses, really.
Yeah.
Because I sort of did the cookbooks and then...
Well, that's it.
It was mentioned that maybe I could run a course alongside someone else. They pulled out, but we sort of went ahead anyway.
Yeah. It went well.
And it's kind of spiraled out of control. Yeah. It's the hobby that's getting out of control, I keep saying
it. Yeah, you're doing more cooking than decorating these days.
Well, it's getting that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And which is why I'm up at the moment, is we're doing the course with Hamish, which, again, by the time this goes out, but we're going to do another one of those, I think, at some point.
It'll be a good weekend.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this.
So, yes, that's the main thing you want to do with the site, really, isn't it? Is promote the traditional skills.
And education. Education and skills.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, really. And people just come along and enjoy themselves. And private eye is a good fundraiser as well. Again, you know, I have yet, after nearly 20 years, I have yet to make any money off the site.
One day.
Just one day. Yeah.
It's expensive having your own privately funded longhouse.
I've had some really good nights though. I mean, it's sort of, I don't leave home now because the site's sort of become my social life. You know, people come to me, so, you know, it's not all bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, should we head back to Moorforge?
We can head back to Moorforge now.
If it's not too windy, we can do a quick site tour.
Yeah.
And I'll cook you some dinner.
Excellent. That sounds like
and then I've got some questions at the end that are just for fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah?
That's
brilliant.
Good.
Right, we'll catch you. It will literally be seconds, but...
but not for us.
Yeah. Right, we've got to go get beer first.
Yeah. That sounds like a plan.
So, although that seemed really quickly to you guys, that was about 3 hours for us, I think.
Yeah, at least. So we'll pick up the threads again.
Yeah. So I've got to remember where we got to now. So I've been cooking for the last couple of hours. We've got some lamb shanks and vegetables, a bit of cheesy barley.
Yeah.
All recipes from the books, and a bit of bread, which I didn't make, but and then one of your recommended local beers, so an Ennerdale Wild craft brewery.
From the local Ennerdale brewery.
Yeah. So we'll have a bit of grub, we'll keep chatting, and then if it's not too bad noise-wise, we'll take you for a little site tour to finish.
Nice barley.
It's all right?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. It's a bit of a favourite of ours. You sort of call it a barley risotto, and it's easier than risotto rice.
It does have that risotto texture to it.
But you find if you make a risotto, you're stirring for hours. With this, you can just chuck it in a pot and leave it.
No, nice that. Good.
I've got these lovely big lamb shanks, which I've just found out you don't really like lamb either.
I don't mind a little bit, but I'm not a big lamb fan. But I'm weirdly not a big meat fan.
No? Proper Viking.
A proper Viking, yeah. Proper Viking.
Doesn't eat meat.
Vegetarian Christian.
Yeah.
No, I've always been that way. I've
just not been big on the meat.
That's not big on meat. Yeah. It disappoints Sue because I got with Sue and Sue will order a steak and here's me with a bit of chicken. She doesn't understand me.
Is it because you've got animals on site, so there's a lot of sheep and stuff running around? Are you?
No, that doesn't bother us.
No,
it's
not like an ethical thing. It's just
I remember as kids, my dad kept cattle. He would sell to the local butchers.
Yeah.
And then we'd have, because we didn't keep many cattle, it was just a small number, we knew them all. They were like pets. And then we sat at lunch one day and he was sitting there and my mother would say, "Oh, here's a slice of such and such," and she'd name the cow. He was like, "Oh,
that's the one thing they say don't do."
Yeah. Don't name the animals. Yeah, it's a bad idea. But yes, I was brought up in a household where we ate the pets, yeah.
And you grew up around here too, right?
Yeah, been here my entire life. I was fetched up in Plumland, which is 6-7 miles down the road, this little village.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was born at Aspertia. Yeah. So very local.
Yeah.
My entire life I've lived around here.
Have you always had the interest in the history as a kid growing up? Was that a...
I was aware of it. I knew there'd been Vikings in the area. A weird thing at school, I went to Beacon Hill School at Aspertia, and there was a major Viking find on the playing field behind the school. That was 1890s, 1900s time, and they found...
You were at school that long ago?
Yeah, I'm older than I look. But the weird thing is, our history class that we were in, had the big windows along the side of the classroom, and we looked out over the playing field, and at my 5 years at Beacon Hill School, never once did the history teacher mention, "Oh, they dug up a Viking out there." It was never mentioned.
Really?
And when I find out, I think that's what kind of prompted us to find out more, because you think, well, what else have I not been told? You know, and it kind of, and then you sort of get into it, and then as time goes on, you find the way I speak's been influenced by the Vikings, or the place names are influenced by the Vikings. There's all this Viking stuff in the churches around here if you care to have a look. You know, and then you realise you're just in the middle of a huge Viking settlement area.
Yeah.
And then as I've started doing this work, and like I say, we worked doing this building here with the Icelanders and so on, and that really fired us up once I started doing this. So the interest was there, but once I got involved with Grampus and started doing the project work, then that really came up. So, and having this, well, it was the start of, this building was the start of it for me on the site, this little forge.
Yeah. You should probably say, so this is the forge we're sat in now, the original Moorforge.
The original Moorforge.
And it's
very authentic.
Moorforge comes from, because the house next door is Moor House.
It was Moor House.
Moor Cottage.
The house is Moor House, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I went self-employed as a blacksmith, I just called myself Moorforge. So it made sense. It was just a, so yeah.
So was that something you did straight out of school, was it, blacksmith?
Yeah. I went, I served my time as an industrial blacksmith at the steelworks.
Yeah.
Which is long gone, unfortunately. So, but I was there till I was 21. I came out, I served my time as an apprentice, and it was all heavy forgings, steam hammer work, that kind of thing. And then when I finished my time, it was at the time that the steel business was taking a nosedive, and they were downsizing everything, and they just didn't need another blacksmith. So I got paid off, and I went as a steel fabricator, putting farm buildings up for a few years. And then I had 17 years contracting on site at Sellafield as a welder fabricator. And then it'll be 18 years ago now.
Yeah.
I decided, well, I'll go on my own, I'll do my own thing. So I set up as a blacksmith here.
Yeah, lovely sight, because on a clear day you can see right across to Scotland, can't you, from here?
Yeah, not today,
Not today.
unfortunately.
We haven't got the best weather.
We look right across. Right across. We've got the Solware Firth comes right up here, and we're looking right across until Dumfriesshire.
Yes, Dumfries and Galloway.
Dumfries and Galloway across the water.
I was trying to, I couldn't think myself.
Yeah, I
what it was
went
called.
brain dead for a second there.
Yeah. Well, our friend Wild Cat lives across the way there. He's not far away.
For not a big meat lover,
It's all right.
the lamb's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
It's all about having it cooked for long enough. Just that long, slow cook. This has been on for probably about 2.5 hours, maybe 3 even by now, because we got gas in a way, didn't we, off camera?
Yeah. Sidetracked slightly.
Yeah. So yeah, probably closer to 3 hours of cooking, which is really tender.
Yeah, it is.
I thought I'd go lamb because of being Cumbria. It's a big county for sheep, and you've got loads of sheep on site. There's loads of lamb running around.
It is sheep lamb, yeah.
You try and keep it local.
Aye. So, yeah.
All right, so we've come outside. I'm actually behind the camera for this bit. Yep. Sorry, David, you're on your own.
It's fine.
But we just thought we'd show you the buildings. It is rather wet and miserable today. We probably should have done this at the weekend. It's meant to be sunny.
Yeah, well, never mind.
But so the building behind us with the turf roof, this is the one that you just saw us sat inside.
Yeah, it's a little traditional building from Norway, Iceland, the north of Scotland. It's a harsh weather building. Heavy walls, low roof, turf, well insulated, easy space to keep warm. Used a lot as workshops, food stores, sick animal barn, whatever. A lot of them were used for weaving houses. They would set up a loom in them, and the women would weave in them. Of course, this particular one, we've got it set up as a blacksmith shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think on your open day you have the forge running.
Yeah, we'll do forge demos on the open day. It is a fully working forge, and it is as it would have been. So it's 99% accurate to what it should have been, as far as we can tell.
And I can vouch for its waterproofness, because our tent's blown down on site
slept
before, and middle of the night we've been running to the forge to sleep in there, and it's you shut the door on that and it's cosy.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah. In a storm with the wind blowing, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So behind that one is the second one which you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, which is our 10-metre long house.
This started off as a workshop, right?
It was initially intended to be a woodworking shop to complement the metalworking shop. So we built it, and the back side of it was open, but we started doing events and so on, and we needed a bigger enclosed space. So what we've done is we've closed in the back side, made the full longhouse, and it's made a really useful space, and it's a favourite to a lot of people. You know, it does well. We get a fire on in there, and it's nice and cosy, and well, it's been your lodgings for the past evening or so.
Yeah.
So
it often is when we come up.
It often is when you come up. You usually end up living in there for the weekend.
Yeah. So it won't show you inside because it's a bit messy at the minute, and there's other people in there. Other people in there. So we'll bypass that. It's too dark, I think. Anyway, you probably wouldn't see a lot.
Well, that's true. So if you see, it's got your traditional hogback shaped roof.
Don't know how well I can get that on. Let's.
I don't know if you'll see it or not. It's higher in the middle than it is at the ends, but it's wider in the middle than it is at the ends.
Yeah.
So it's kind of keep the roof at 45 degrees, and as you're building it, if the roof stays at the same angle because it's wider in the middle, then the top has to rise.
And is it? I think are the roofs not built in the same fashion as the boats, which is why they're that shape?
It is that thing that they do have a bit of a boat fetish.
Yeah.
And well, of course, it's their big innovation is the boat. It's what enables them to trade, to travel, you know, and there is tales of them pulling up on foreign shores and drag the boat up, tip it upside down.
Yeah.
You've got an instant roof. Yeah. hang the sails around the side, and they've got accommodation. Yeah. So it's and it's how they start. So, but you can see the shape perhaps better on the frame, the naked frame of the new build. This one's 18 metres.
We keep talking, and I'm just going to do
7 metres wide in the middle, and it's a lot larger construction than the previous longhouse. And as you can see, the frame's pretty much complete, and we've just started to clad the far end. So we've got a room and loft area at the far end of the build. It's clad, so we want that completed for this summer to make us a usable space at the back. And then as we get into the summer, I expect that we'll have this, if not finished, at least watertight by winter. That's the plan. So going into winter, we have a large usable indoor space that we can work with and work on. And there's a lot of work to go into that. once it's clad, we've got all the benches, the fireplaces, the ironwork, loads of carving and painting and decorating, and just and get it done out as a wealthy man's hall, as it were. Yeah.
And so the doors are going to be at this end, are they?
We'll have doors at this end, and we'll have the main entrance at this end. There is a side exit at the far end, so which goes out and up to the willow and so on there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the only other thing we've got is your little workshop here as well.
And there's a little workshop here, yeah.
Which you've got, I think, a little
there's
clay furnace in there. And
yeah, there's a bead furnace and so on in there. It's not really. We built it on last summer. As the year goes on, we're hoping to kit it out as a woodworking shop. So we'll have pole lathe in there, shave horses, assorted tools, and it's just a useful, nicely sheltered workspace where we can do a bit of green woodworking, some bit of bodging some furniture.
Yeah.
I think there's a bird nest up there actually.
Yeah, I came in here earlier and frightened a pigeon, I think it was.
There's doves about now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so this will be a really good space once it's up and running properly. At present, it's just handy to have another covered space. Yeah. Yeah. So that's about it. At the far end, at the bottom of the car park, we're going to put up an animal barn along there. The palisade fence will continue around the site to enclose it and make it more inclusive.
Yeah.
So that it separates the modern from the old. So we've got a nice definition between the two. And on the other side of the new frame, once this new longhouse is finished, on the other side of there, we're going to build a little early Christian chapel. And again, that needs all kitted out with a bit of nice stone work. And
yeah. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Missed that. Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's kind of the sum total of the site. But it'll take years because once the buildings are up, it's the level of detail that we need.
Yeah.
So whatever goes on, there'll be stuff. And there'll be stuff going on, there'll be courses running. And a lot of the courses will be producing more arty type items for the site, whether it's wood carving, furniture making, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's getting genuine stuff on site, as well as running various other craft courses, of course. Yeah.
Well, we're getting wet, so if we move back inside, we can tell people, because there's a question that's coming up at the end of the podcast that might tie in nicely with what you've just said. So we'll move back inside the forge and get out of the rain.
Because it's not nice out here.
It's not. Lovely Cumbria. Right, so there are 6 questions that I ask every guest. Surprises.
Surprises.
So 3 of them will go out on the main episode, and 3 of them we'll keep for the bonus. So we'll close the podcast down after the first 3.
Okie doke.
But don't go anywhere, because we'll have 3 more.
Ooh.
So anyone that's really keen to see more of David, head over to Patreon, because there'll be extra. All right, so the first question, and I think I can guess the answer to this one, is if you had an unlimited budget, what would be your dream project?
Well, I think we're among it here. You know, you've seen around the site and what we do, and to continue that, to complete it, to add the level of detail and so on, to be able to put into it everything that I want to put into it, an unlimited budget would be most helpful.
Fully furnished, longhouse.
Well, this is it with all the detail and the carving and the artwork and everything else that's needed to go with it. Yeah, I would go with that.
Okay. See, my mind's gone blank again.
Good man.
Yeah, I'm good at this. Not going to quit my day job just yet. That's it. So, do you think you could survive on a Viking Age diet?
Yeah, I could survive on it. I could survive on it. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course you could. I mean, a lot of straightforward basics, a lot of one-pot cookery, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Like we just done.
I'm good with barley and veg and a bit of meat thrown in. Yeah, it's all good with me.
Yeah. So is there anything you'd miss on a Viking Age diet?
I have a horrendous sweet tooth. Yeah. So that would be the thing. I crave sweetness. So it's, I'm
What's
a bit
the favourite?
Chocolate and ice cream. It's just, it's like, but weirdly, I don't like chocolate flavoured ice cream.
They're quite different things, though, aren't
they? Different things.
Yeah.
Chocolate and ice cream are 2 different things. Best kept that way in my book.
Not even a mint choc chip?
The mint helps.
Even that chocolate though, it's not normal chocolate, is it? It's
normal
like
chocolate,
plain
no.
chocolate. Or
Yeah.
it's almost like that stuff you get for cooking, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Anyhow, that's
the one.
I miss sweet stuff.
All right, so before we close, we should probably just do a little plug. I don't know if you want to plug your social media stuff. Probably not your private stuff, but...
There's nothing on my private stuff anyhow. You're welcome to have a look. You won't find anything there. There's nothing private on there.
What have you got an Instagram and a Facebook for Moorforge?
There's an Instagram and Facebook for Moorforge. Please look at it. Anything that's happening on site, it'll be pushed on there first, so you'll know what's coming up.
I'm trying to think what your actual tag is. I think it's Moorforge Viking Settlement on Facebook.
Yeah.
I think it's Moorforge Cumbria on Instagram, if I remember.
It could be.
Because we had an issue with the original name. I'll put a link underneath.
Yeah.
So you can find it. But I mean, if you type Moorforge in, it's not going to come up with
If you just Google Moorforge, you'll find us just Googling it, Moorforge.
And you haven't got a website at the minute, have you?
We haven't got a website at the moment. We did have one, and then it kind of, pandemic-y time come, and it kind of fell by the wayside, and it wasn't getting used. And it was, you know, but it's something, as we're sort of getting back into things again, it's something that we're looking to advance again. So hopefully we'll have one soon. But you'll find, just Google Moorforge, you'll find us.
Yeah. Right, well, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Don't go anywhere just yet, because we've got 3 more for the patrons.
Ooh.
Yeah, so thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye. If you enjoyed the podcast and want to hear more, remember to like and subscribe and give me a rating. For recipes and ideas, visit my website, saxonforager.co.uk. I also have 3 cookbooks available to buy on Amazon worldwide. These are Eat Like a Viking Volumes 1 and 2, and Eat Like a Halfling. Thanks for watching.